Call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. Chris, could you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Detzel.
Here.
Mr. Harlow.
Here.
Mr. Heather.
Here.
Mr. Engel.
Here.
Mr. Detzel.
Here.
Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone has received a copy of the regular meeting minutes for October 9th. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any corrections, additions? Okay, Chris?
Just a second, you good?
Do you need that?
We've already got it.
You good? Okay, oh, that's what she said, awesome.
I think we'll
There we go. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, Michael, do we have a legislative update?
Yes, we do. The House held hearings on House Bill 200, which would establish an income-based voucher with the only eligibility criteria being a family household income of no higher than 400% of federal poverty level for a family of four. That represents $98,400 per year. Ohio School Board Association is opposed to the bill. They've already had a couple hearings on it in the House. The Senate Education Committee also heard proponent testimony on House Bill 170. This bill calls for developing optional academic content standards and model curriculum for computer science. House Bill 170 also addresses educator qualifications for teaching computer science. Legislation is expected to be scheduled for possible amendments and a vote at the next hearing, according to the committee chair. It already passed the House, so we'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. And now, for our student achievement report, it is on the Natural Science Center programs.
I believe our tour tonight was the presentation part.
Okay. Well, actually, just to let all of you know, we are at the Natural Science Center. This is a part of Butler Tech. Here, they are housed, Chad, step in if I forget, landscape architecture, equine science, vet tech. Is there another one?
That's it?
That's it, okay. And prior to the meeting, we had a tour of the facility. That's amazing. They have, how many animals? The vet program has
About 50.
about 50 different species here. Equine, we got to go in the barn and see all the beautiful horses that I want to take home. And the landscape architecture program, we got to actually check out all the facilities. So it's a rainy night, but we still had a nice tour. And I would highly recommend anybody that has any interest in any of those future, just stop out here and check this out. So we'll go Butler Tech report, Jim?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you said, Pam, just the highly encourage people who have kids that are interested in these programs to come out here and give a tour and check it out. It's absolutely fabulous.
Pam, Jim, do you mind if I chime in for a second?
Sure.
Yeah,
There will be an application process for this Butler Tech program, just like there is all the other ones. We bring the kids out on a guided tour. There are some great options here for our students. And again, I will reiterate that this is a Butler Tech program. So the object is to get you to come out to a 2-year program, gain college credit, and move on to an associate 2-year degree or a full 4-year degree. So it is a great opportunity for all students. It is located on about 72 acres of land, so you have awesome experiences that some kids would not get in college going through programs that are similar for certification. So it is, again, another opportunity for our kids. And even though we might be 30 minutes from central office, we do provide transportation up here. They meet at Colerain High School and Northwest High School. It's about a 25-minute bus ride up, and then we bus to other Butler Tech programs from D. Russell Lee out to here, out to our Arts Center. But it's just an outstanding opportunity that until you see, you really don't believe it. And the one thing we encourage our kids to come, but we've got to get parents out here. The parents could see what was going out here. It's not just a farm with no technology. They have as much technology here that we have in any school we have. They have interactive courses, they have hands-on procedures. It's just an awesome opportunity for kids.
And just to piggyback, I can say just for the Vet Tech program alone, many of the things the students are doing as high school, I know when our daughter was in college, she did those things in college and was amazed at what the opportunities these high school kids are having to be trained on state-of-the-art equipment and really getting a feel for what that field is all about. So I, like Todd, agree that we need to get parents out here to see, and that's why tonight we moved the board meeting out here, because we also thought it was important that all the other board members see this facility as well. Okay, so we'll move on to employee organizations. Any reports from certificated or licensed? Classified? Any reports from school-related organizations? I have not received any requests for community communications, so we will move right into the financial reports of the treasurer.
Yes, the first item is a fiscal item. It is financial reports of the treasurer, September 2017. The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the financial reports as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Okay, Amy? Or, I'm sorry, Chris? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is certificated licensed personnel item. It is certificated licensed personnel retirements and resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions regarding the certificated license, retirements, or resignations? Okay. Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is a fiscal item, then and now certificates over $3,000. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education authorize the payments over $3,000 requiring a then and now certificate as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions regarding then and now certificates? Okay, Chris? Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is a fiscal item. It's new fund, approval of new fund 019-9804, Ohio Speech and Debate Association, Colerain High School, $750. Treasurer and superintendent recommend that the Board of Education approve the new fund as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions regarding the new fund? Will there be a fund like this at Northwest too, or is this just Colerain?
It's just Colerain for the Debate Association now.
Okay. Okay, Chris? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is a fiscal item. It is our 5-year forecast and related assumptions.
Forecast presentation. Remember, every October and May, we do our forecast in October and we have our update in May. So you can look at the October 5-year forecast. Our revenues are trending as we have historically, with about 2/3 of our funding coming from local property taxes or from the state's tax credits the state provides for our property owners, and about 1/3 coming from the state through state foundation. And expenditures, again, trending very similar, the same. Most of our expenditures are for personnel, because we are a service entity. So salary is about 58% of our budget, with benefits another 18%, and then purchase services are 19%. This is mostly for utilities and special education services outside tuition to other districts. This makes up the majority of our budget. So when we look at where we've been and where we're going, and the revenue is in the blue, and while in 15 it goes up a little higher and has come down, we did have the second emergency levy, which we let go and put into a bond/operating levy for our master facilities project. That's why revenue was a little higher in 15. Since that has gone, you can see our revenue is pretty flat, and expenditures do slowly just pick up over time with expenditures that cost of living increases and inflation. total increase. The green line is our cash balance. Our expenditures exceed revenue, we eat into our cash balance, and at the end of our 5 years, we are in a negative cash balance. So again, just to show you where we have been and where we are going. Again, expenditures, as you can see, expenditures were trending. And then revenue was up a little higher when we had the second emergency levy, and then that's flatlined out. This was the $10 million transfer that we made from the general fund into our master facility projects, so that bumped up expenditures slightly. Kind of artificially, because we just moved cash balance. But if your trajectory or expenditures is slow incline, decreasing, which then in the green line decreases our cash balance, and the black line is our cash balance policy. We have in our board policy 3 months of operating expenditures in our cash balance policy. So the black line is where we would need to be, the green line is where we are trending to be in our 5-year forecast that is on the agenda for tonight. So when you look at revenue, because as you can see, revenue is pretty flat. So we have a revenue situation. When we look at revenue, the per pupil increase from the state for the 18-19 biennial budget was a $10 increase. We are third funded by the state, so for us this was about a $4 increase per pupil for the year, or around $38,000 a year increase in the state. But then they also changed the transportation reimbursement from a 60% reimbursement down to 35, where it was approximately $1 million decrease per year to the district in transportation reimbursement from the state. So in looking at our two revenue sources of income, are local and state. 2/3 come from local, 1/3 comes from the state. When we look at property taxes, our property taxes are locked when they are voted. So what that means is when our community votes for a levy, they're locking in that dollar amount of how much they're going to provide the district when the levy is passed. So as valuations go up, what a property owner pays comes down, so that in total the district collects the same amount of money that they asked for when they asked for the levy. We had levies in '76, but this was also when House Bill 920 was enacted, and every district had to have 20 mills on the ballot. Then in '86, '89, '97, these were our operating levies. In 2012, we have the emergency levy that we also renewed in '17. So it wasn't new money in '17, it was the same money we've been operating on since '12. And in 2015, we did have the 1 mil of operating that we added on to the bond when we converted the emergency levy from 10 to the bond operating levy in 15. So this is when we've asked for revenue, and this is the revenue that we are currently operating on in '17 and projecting operating on through '22. Revenue from, if you were to get your paycheck in '76, paying bills in '22. 86, 89. So what I have tonight is just a visual to help the board see that as a suburban school district, the state's school funding mechanism for suburban districts is local property taxes. And so most suburban districts have to go out and ask for revenue in the way of taxes as a school funding mechanism every 3 years. Because when you ask your deficit spending, then the second year you have a projected revenue income, and then the third year you're back to deficit spending. So you're asking right at the beginning for more than what you're spending, so that by the end you're spending more than what you're bringing in, and it's just it's a cycle. It's the way the state of Ohio has put the revenue and the school funding mechanism into place. The Finance Committee has looked at how schools are funded in the state of Ohio and how urban schools are more funded with federal income, and the rural schools are more funded by the state, but the suburban schools are left to local. So I wanted to make sure you were aware that when we're looking at our revenue and our expenses, we also have to look at what the revenue mechanisms that we have in place are and how we can keep our expenses within those mechanisms, but at the same time make sure that the revenue is adequate to meet the expenses of what our needs are, because our students' needs are different in 2017 than they were in 87 and 89 and 97. We're having to do more services that used to be provided maybe by a county service. But when they're in our buildings and they're in with us during the day, those expenses become our expenses. And so now we're paying for things that maybe we didn't used to pay for. Nursing services, psychological services, social working services, those things that you wouldn't think of as a school, but now the school pays for. On top of just increasing costs after inflation. So when we look at our tax base, because 2/3 of our revenue does come from our local tax base, 76% of that tax base is residential tax base, meaning there is no growth. The valuation may increase, but in total, we receive the same amount of money as when it was passed. The Class 2, or the industrial commercial, the orange part there, that does grow with valuation. So we get the full voted mills on that, and I'll show you in a second, but we get, so as valuation increases, we do get some growth on that, and that's why on the forecast, you'll see it bump up some. But if you look over time, the community has voted 47.5 mills for the school district, but we only collect on 25.5 mills because the revenue over here on the right, the 3.8 million from 1976 down to the 1.4 million in 2015. It's the same dollar amount every single year, no matter what happens with our expenditure. The revenue's the same. And then the emergency levy at the bottom here is what we went out and asked for. It's a set dollar amount. So it's $7.3 million, no matter what valuation does. And that emergency levy, because it was a 5-year and now it's a 10-year, in 2027, we will have to go back to the voters to ask to keep what we have been spending since 2012. It's not new money. It doesn't increase as expenses increases. In 2027, without that $7.3 million, that's a $7.3 million cut we would have to make day one, because we've been spending that since 2012. This is the funding mechanism we exist in, and I wanted to make sure you understood that as our expenditures grow, we have been talking about, on the forecast, see in your packet, the negative deficit spending of $3 million in fiscal year 2018. Fiscal year 2018 is now. We've been talking about this for 2 years. So we are here at a negative deficit spending of $3 million in the current year. And it just keeps growing as we get to each year, and that's why you saw the green line going down. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware and fully understood the picture that we're in and the reason why we are where we're at. So with that, do you have questions?
Could you tell the board here what we get per student from the state now versus 10 years ago? Do you have an idea?
Not 10 years ago. Right now, we get about $2,300.
$2,300. I was just wondering if that number, I know there's inflation and everything, but if that number is getting smaller or bigger in the state.
I would say smaller, because the funding we've been getting from the state is smaller than it was even in 2009, 2007.
And the other thing, when we decided as a board for our previous levy to keep it so it wouldn't raise taxes for our community, we had no idea then the state was going to turn around and change the transportation formula, and we just got cut $1 million more. So that's, of that $3 million, $1 million of that is us.
Right, but we weren't expecting it. We knew last spring, but
Right.
before that, no. We also, state had, normally they used to give a 3% increase every year. So it's SF3 funding, and then we went through the recession years and we did that, and revenue was cut. But now they're not even giving 1%. When they're giving $10 per pupil, $6,000 out, $6,000, $10, when we get $4,000. It's $36,000 increase in a year to operate $90-some million budget. I mean, for a school district to be able to operate on that without any other additional revenue is very good.
So by next year, I mean, we are definitely going to have to make some major cuts for have serious talks about how to get additional funds.
And we've been having lots of serious talks within the office of
Right.
what to do, what programs are we offering, staffing, efficiencies, looking utilities, looking at what we purchase, supply, looking at efficiencies in all ways of doing things.
And just for those of you that probably haven't heard this a million times, 20 years ago, the state, it was determined that it's unconstitutional the way Ohio funds schools. Yet here we are 20 years, at least 20 years later, and they haven't done one thing about it except just mandating more, putting more mandates on us that are unfunded, and then cutting us another way. So it's still all on the taxpayer, and the school district's hands are tied when it comes to that.
And the 5-year forecast and the assumptions that go with all the numbers in the forecast are on the ESD that you can see and read.
Amy?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Amy, I'm just looking at the one chart where general property tax revenue in 2015 was almost 42 million, and now it's just barely above 39 million. How do you explain that?
Well, remember, we had an additional emergency levy we were collecting back in 2015, and we're not collecting anymore. So you have the difference of you added an update and a reappraisal year between those two times, and you eliminated an emergency levy,
Then we can learn to a bond copy, mostly.
except for the 1.4 million that we left in operating.
Okay. That makes sense.
$5 million difference.
How much does the state subtract when a student leaves for a charter school?
The whole $6,010. We have over $6 million leaving for students that go to charter community schools, open enrollment, and for scholarships.
Scholarship, that's like the Peterson.
Yes, that's the majority. We have some autism.
So, Todd, when are we gonna find out what we have to cut, programs, services?
Well, currently, we're working as a team to see what adjustments we can make. We've already started the process of changing 12-month employees to 10-month employees. When we hire new administrators, bringing them in at a 200-day contract or 210 instead of the usual 247. So we've tried to make cuts there. We've made some cuts out of central office where we have not replaced folks, but we've done as much as we can to look at the combination of the 5 elementaries going to the 3. There are some savings there with some staffing, but we will have to sit down and continue to make cuts. And we've continued to work about this and talk to our administrators at every principal meeting we've had. It's a constant discussion at AO, and we will come with some recommendations as we move forward. But it's something we work on every day and every week.
Right.
It's not going to be something new.
Well, when you talk to administrators and you work on it in central office, but do we go out to the actual everyday employee and get their ideas? A lot of times, a lot of good ideas come from the bottom up. I mean, you may get 100 ideas and maybe only 5 of them are good, but at least you're getting more input from more people.
We have committees that we will form that will start to look at cuts. Principals, as they have done in the past, will go back to the buildings and present the presentations to them and gather ideas there and then bring it back to our AO principals meeting. And there's nothing easy about it. We've lived through this. I cut 30 at 1 year or 2 year, within 2 year frame at Northwest. It's not easy. I don't think we're looking at that. We still got to service our kids. We've done a lot of things to keep levies not raising money that has really hurt us in keeping funds in place, that we're in this place right now. When we passed 2 levies and didn't raise taxes, that we all agreed that's what it should do, but that really put us in a hole. When we moved that $10 million, that was our bank to go to, and now we're paying the price for that.
And I want to say, I mean, as schools, be transparent and accountable to our community and our taxpayers, not the easy way, but the first thing you go to is expenses. Cut expenses, cut expenses. K-8, we know our class sizes are right at 25, some a little higher. So we've looked at those. High school a little harder because some of the upper classes harder to get the numbers in there. So to put 25 in there may not happen. but then the other classes may have 30 or more, depending on which class it is at the high school level. So all those are different. Our salaries, we were 23rd out of 30 in the surrounding schools. We were having trouble recruiting, retaining, and rewarding our employees and keeping people here, this great district. We got to be able to pay our employees to come, to stay, to help our kids grow. We were able to get that up midway. But next round, everybody's going to give raises. We're looking at cutting or nothing. We're going to drop right back to the bottom. We're going to be right back where we were. I mean, we have to think about what the funding mechanism that we're in, what can we do to utilize that mechanism, and at the same time control our expenditures, be accountable to our community, and provide the services that our community wants and needs. So we have to look at what services we offer. We are, as an administrative team, looking at the services we offer, how much they cost, how many kids they're affecting and are benefiting from them, what's the academic return on investment. We're analyzing in data on everything we do, increasing scores, as you've seen at the last board meeting. The first thing we do now is jump to what can we cut and what the expenditures are. But when we start doing that, we're going to start gutting what we have accomplished over the last several years, and we're going to go backwards. So we have to watch that fine line, make sure we're doing the right thing, be accountable to our community and our taxpayers, but at the same time, make sure we're funding what they're expecting. And be open and honest with them. This is what you want, this is what it costs. If you don't want that, that's fine, then we can offer this. But before you just gut it out, make sure that's what your community is aware of, can support, and wants.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to come up with a magical list of cuts that is going to do what we need to do. I will tell the public right now, and all of you, my recommendation will be coming with a levy up in the near future. Maybe not next year, but it's going to be soon after that, because we've got too many things going the right way. We've got people starting to move back into our district. We're going to see it with all-day kindergarten. We've got our scores going up. We've got pretty big class sizes. I think if you'd asked our teachers, they're pretty large class sizes, but you know, it's not like we're sitting here on this big puffy ball of cheese land and we can just pass it all out because everything's simple and easy for us. We've made cuts. We've got central office personnel we haven't replaced. We've got building administrators we haven't replaced. We started cutting those last year. We've already moved some secretaries from 12 months to 10 months. We've done a lot of this, and we've been talking about it for the last 2 years. So if somebody thinks I'm going to come with a magical cuts list, that's not going to happen. We continue to go up in cost. We promised 1-to-1 for the schools. Technology costs money. We've got the implementation we need. We haven't raised taxes, I believe, since 2011.
12 was the last emergency levy.
So 2012, so
15 has the 1.4 million into operating
if
that
you
we
look at a levy
converted.
for the 18-19 school year, that would be 6-7 years from when we've asked people to raise taxes and pay extra. Yet we've done all of this stuff, built new schools. We've saved enough money, and I'll be the first to remind folks, we should be able to build, unless enrollment changes, a K-8 campus with the money we have saved going through the OFCC project. So we can get a new Colerain Middle and a Colerain L and then put that together. So we're transparent. You guys have done a great job of being honest every time you've talked about it, but there's no magical list. We'll do it down because that's what we do. We have to be transparent. We have to spend money that gets us the most bang for our buck. We don't want to waste money. And there's no magical formula for saving money in transportation, food service, classified aides, certified teachers. We need all those folks, and we don't need anybody else doing it for us. We need our folks, and that's what we want, and that's what you all 5 have said repeatedly. So we'll look at as many things as we can, but I think we're gonna have to come back eventually and talk about what cuts we can make. But also, I had 3 teachers and 2 administrators who live in our district come up to me and say, hey, we finally got things going where we're going. We would rather talk about not losing what we're doing by making cuts that are so severe it just wipes out everything, but looking at a levy and what it can do for our community, because we've done a good job managing money. I mean, Amy is on it 24/7, her and Chris working together. They keep us in line. When we want to spend, they're like, remember, and we pulled back on that. And then you guys do the same way. All the questions you have from Amy and all your meetings, they're dead on what we need to work on. So It's not gonna be easy, but we'll get through it again. But we're moving in a good direction, and we wanna keep that going.
Todd, what about when we open the new buildings in the fall? We're combining buildings, we're getting rid of a lot of unnecessary repairs constantly to our buildings. Is that, are those numbers reflected in your projections, or is that something we're gonna see once the building's open?
For staffing or for repairs?
Both.
Repairs are mainly paid out of the PI fund, and the forecast is general fund. So we really don't have the repairs in the general fund. It's all paid out of our PI fund, which was when we moved the inside mills, the 3 mills that go into the PI every year. And staffing, we're currently working on the staffing model for the new buildings. And as square feet, you know, like custodial wise,
Yeah,
it's
there'll be
based on
savings
square
for
feet and that.
custodials
But
classified.
we're working on that. So it's not in here because we don't have it concrete yet. But we know as we're working to that $3 million deficit, those are things that
It'll
are,
be included in there.
yes.
And another example of other cuts, Chris is down 2 maintenance folks from what they used to be because we know new buildings are coming. So every department's been working on this and been doing it, and that's even with those numbers that are up there. Teachers, I think we're at a pretty good number. I'm afraid if enrollment increases like I want it to, and you know how many kids it takes to pay for a classroom, probably about 14 pays for a new teacher, but you don't like to look at it that way. But I think we're gonna need more teachers than we're actually gonna have. I think they've done a great job of dividing our classified. I'm not worried at all that we're gonna lose classified employees. I think we're gonna be hiring classified employees through retirements, resignations, and people going. So I don't want our folks to worry about jobs, and that's not the point either. But we've been really busy trying to make all these cuts that you guys are talking about.
And we have to keep in mind too that even though the buildings are going to be more energy efficient, we have also listened to the public and listened to our staff, and we've air conditioned all the buildings, which that's going to be an additional cost. So it's kind of a wash, or kind of close to a wash, or
Right now, we have projected a wash. We've been asking for some data from other schools that have recently switched from an older building into AC to see what they have. We have the chillers in there, so we're expecting that to be more energy efficient. One of those is once you get in there, and you just have to
Right.
see how it is and fine tune it over time.
Anybody else? Thanks, Amy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next item is a fiscal item. It is accept the fiscal year 18 amended certificate of estimated resources. Superintendent treasurer. Oh, we got to approve the forecast. Very
sorry.
true. Let's go back to the forecast.
Let me go back.
That's kind of important.
Yes.
Because you've been forward.
No, it's okay, we're gonna have to do it by hand because there's not a vote, it wasn't an action. It's just a vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just info action.
There's no voting, online, is there a voting on?
Well, info/action, it
Can
says.
you jump back to when I joined, going to the amendment certificate?
Well, I was on it. Now let me go back. I'm on it now.
I'm not.
It's not.
Yeah, we have a motion.
It's not, I mean, I'm looking at it and it's showing it.
It's not bouncing back though, because that, you dictate the.
So once you move it forward, you can,
We'll just go ahead and do it by hand and then look at it.
okay, sorry, technical difficulties.
Okay. A motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the 5-year forecast. Is there any other questions? Okay,
Mrs. Betzel?
aye.
Mr. Harlow?
Aye.
Mr. Heather?
Aye.
Mr. Engel?
Aye.
Mr. Betzel?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
The next item is a fiscal item. Accept the fiscal year 18 amended certificate of estimated resources. Superintendent and treasurer recommends the Board of Education accept a fiscal year 18 amended certificate of estimated resources as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Okay. Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is a general business item. It is grant of easement for Taylor Elementary water line. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the granting of water main easement in connection with construction of the new elementary school on the Taylor property and authorizing the president and the treasurer to enter into said easement upon compliance with all conditions precedent related thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any questions or comments regarding the grant of easement for Taylor? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is donations to Northwest Local School District. With the closing of their Milford, Ohio office and warehouse, Cadent Johnson LLC graciously donated several items to the district worth an estimated value of $5,850. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the donations to the Northwest Local School District as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Questions regarding the donations? I would just like to thank Cadent Johnson for their generous donation. Okay, Chris? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is vendor contracts. Superintendent Treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the vendor contracts as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Questions or comments regarding vendor contracts? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is certificated licensed personnel items. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Questions regarding certificated licensed personnel items? Okay, Chris? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is classified personnel items. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions regarding classified personnel? Chris? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is a miscellaneous item. It is Neola Board Policy Revisions. The superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the Neola Board Policy Revisions as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions regarding the policy revisions? Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is the naming of the new elementary schools. The results of the naming of the new elementary school survey will be discussed and recommended building names approved for the Pleasant Run, Struble, and Taylor sites. What I wanted to go into is the survey was sent out. We did have naming committees at each school, shared information with them. It was overwhelming what the names came back as. It was by far the majority at each site. And for the Pleasant Run Middle School site, the name of the school will be Pleasant Run Elementary, so it will stay the same. At Struble, it will stay Struble Elementary, and at Taylor, it will stay Taylor Elementary. So pretty much nobody was a close second. There was a variety of answers, but it was pretty easy to come up with a final. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the new elementary school buildings names for the Pleasant Run, Struble, and Taylor sites as recommended.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any questions or comments?
Pam, just the comment that I have, I'm okay with going along with the committees and the voting, but I was just sort of hoping, at least with Struble, because, we're having the merger with Weigel and Struble, it's a fairly even merger, that with all the assault on great Americans in our history, I was hoping that we could come up with like Abraham Lincoln Elementary School, or name it after somebody who has really been responsible for turning this country into the great country it is. And I'm just disappointed that that was the one I thought, would be one we might have a new name for, but the votes were taken, so I guess we stick with that. But I don't know if anybody else feels the same way.
Any other comments? I know
Yeah,
we
I'm
also.
good with the names that everybody voted, and
You know, as somebody who, is a transplant here to Cincinnati, I always find it interesting when people who've been here for a while refer to things by their old names. And then I don't know where something is. This happened to be a lot in my first couple of years here. So with new families moving in, this may be a good way to keep the continuity going and not have somebody say, oh, yeah, you're over at Struble. What's Struble? Like, somebody who's new wouldn't know that. So I think it's a good move. I think it'll help with families moving in.
And I don't know the complete history, but I believe Mr. Struble, that is named after somebody that was an administrator, I believe, in our district. And also, we need to keep in mind, Welch is merging as well with Pleasant Run. So, but I want to thank everybody on the committee, and I know I'm just excited for August to see these brand-new schools open with all these kids in it, and see those old buildings come tumbling down. So we'll call for the vote. Chris? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, Todd, we'll go into superintendent's
Superintendent's update. Basically wanted to talk about what went on in the district today. Today was a professional development day. Outstanding presentations for all grade levels, K through 5. Differentiation for our middle schools, our tier 1, 2, and 3 supports for our special education, reading and math specialist. Nationally known speaker coming in. Daryl, can you help me with the name? Kim Getty coming in and speaking to the 3 middle schools. I also had the pleasure of going over to Welch as the new staffs came together. That was exciting for them. They do have questions. They do have concerns. Most of them want to know, what am I teaching next year? What grade level? What subject area? Are we going to be self-contained or not? But they were open with each other. Casey and Jamel did a great job of leading with some questions, and then they could put questions on the board, and it popped up right in front of them. And it was neat that they were finally, to me, and they might tell you different, but to me it looked like they were getting excited. So today was a good start. I know that Struble and Weigel got together also, and the Taylor staff got together. So we will continue to do this through the year. It was very hard to answer the interview that we had to go through with the raising of the beam. What would new schools supply for our teachers? And I get to the point where I'm so excited, I'm like, why am I a superintendent? I'd rather go back and be a teacher in these new buildings because they are phenomenal. But you go to small classrooms, desks side by side, no space to move around, to open areas, great lighting, great visibility outside, extended learning areas, a different seat. So you've got me who got paddled in K1, 2, 3, and 4 in 5th grade because I couldn't sit still. And I might holler, Daryl! I swear it was a twitch or something, but I had issues. But we have chairs and furniture that allow kids to be mobile. We have devices that would allow kids to learn at different speeds. Some of the most common points that I talk to parochial parents about is, well, I put my kid in a parochial school or I put my kid somewhere else because I want my kid to be able to move at their pace. These learning areas allows them to do that. They will have one-to-one technology, so anywhere they go on the 5th grade floor, 4th grade floor, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and K, there is no holding back. You don't have to wait for Todd Bowling to catch up, as I was behind a little bit in math, but I was way ahead of you in reading. And you can differentiate, and you can bring many things into it. You have technology where you get immediate feedback. You can have the kids walk in, they sit down, they can respond to questions on the board. And right now the teacher knows, hey, they got it, they didn't get it, can get right back to it, reteaching, dividing kids up based on data. It is amazing what our teachers can do to data, and thanks to our data department and our curriculum department. Where we are at now is unbelievable to where we were just 3 to 4 years ago. And it's continuous professional development. It's continual collaboration of professionals working together. And that was the neatest part today. So these grade level teams who didn't know each other were coming together, sharing ideas, telling what I can bring to a team, putting it up there. And it's just a great time to be here and a great time to go through this process. So a lot of hard work was put in by administrative office. A lot of principals did a great job leading grade level things at their buildings. High schools had a lot of interaction between Colerain and Northwest sharing PD. So it was just a great day, and people always wonder, well, why don't the kids have school? Why are they having a professional development day? There's too much to do. There's so much accountability that we have to have these days to get the training in they need to do. Early release days, some of those are for record keeping, but if you're a high school teacher, you might be grading 180 English exams so you can get your final quarter grades in there. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of reasons why we have early release, a lot of reasons why we have professional development. And so we're starting to work on the calendar for next year. And I want to make sure that everybody understands we'll be within a week early, a week later, or the same week for school to start next year. We plan to be out before Memorial Day. And we don't want people to think, well, new buildings, so we're not going to start after September. Because we border Fairfield, I think sometimes they think that we are doing the same thing as them. And yes, they started after Labor Day this year. We do not have to. Megan Skanska and SHP have everything on time. It will be a lot of work this summer because you have to tear down and demolish 2 buildings, Taylor and Struble, and get all of it out of there and put down new parking lots for the new school. So we might be 1 week later, but we're either going to be that 14th, 15th that week or the 21st, 22nd that next week. So we'll get some calendars out. We'll put it out to our teachers. We'll put it out to our PTAs. But we need to move on it pretty quickly because Megan Skanska wants to make sure that our goal will be that once school ends before Memorial Day, teachers won't be coming back in the building. They'll have everything they need to go out, so that Monday we can start the demolition. So got a lot of work to do, but it's starting to get really exciting. And we'll get through the 5-year forecast and we'll continue to make progress. But it's going to be some good times come this summer when we're doing open houses, going through these new buildings, and then all the closing ceremonies at the other school. And I don't want people to think that names, we forget people. There's nobody going to forget Everett Welch and what he did for our community in that school. He will be a part of Pleasant Run Elementary, and he will be a big part of it. And there are other things we can do to bring in past veterans and their names or past presidents with our hallways, with our gymnasiums, with our auditoriums. There's several things we can do because it's about our community and what they want. So we'll work hard on that and make sure that we bring everything into it. So.
Okay. Thanks, Todd. At this time, we'll move into community comments. For all of you out there, is there anyone that has any questions regarding what we talked about at the meeting tonight? Okay, with that, we'll move right into board member comments. Chris?
I want to just thank Chad for the great tour of your wonderful facility here and for allowing us to have this board meeting here tonight. Just more than impressed. And what you have to offer for the students of, is it 11 schools that feed into Butler Tech?
10 districts, 12 high schools.
Okay. So thank you so much for tonight.
Michael?
Thank you for everybody who helped bring this meeting out here. Everybody in the central office, Chris, Amy, Todd, Chip, for coming out here all this way to broadcast tonight. Really means a lot. Election Day is coming up on November 7th. It's 2 weeks from tomorrow, and I encourage everybody to study up on the people and the issues and cast an informed ballot.
Okay, Bob?
I'd like to thank Chad for the invite to come out here and show us around. But I'd also like to talk about the whole opportunity that Butler Tech in a whole gives to students. And to put this in perspective a little bit, a couple weeks ago I was in a race and I was running with 2 other teachers, and one of the teachers was from Cincinnati Public. And talking to him, you know, I was asking him what are his struggles at Cincinnati Public, what do they go up against, and the first thing he said was, you know, the influx of students with English is their second language. And, you know, we have some of that in our school district too, but I don't think it's as much as what they have. And the second thing that he said was, you know, they're trying to put everybody in the same box, trying to get everybody ready for college. And he goes, you know, not everybody fits in that square box. There's round pegs, there's, you know, triangle pegs, there's all these different pegs that you've got to try to put into this one box. And the first thing he said was the lack of technical training that's available to the students. And man, that hit home so fast when you realize what a great opportunity that our students have at Northwest to have a great facility like Butler Tech available to them. It's just unbelievable. So I just wanted to share that story that, that we were just having a casual conversation and something like that comes up, and this is big, being able to offer this to our students. So thank you.
Okay, Jim?
Bob, I couldn't have said it better myself. Being the Butler Tech board representative, I get to see this stuff firsthand, and it's just the opportunity is out there for our kids. Like you said, you may not want to go to college. You may want to be in manufacturing. You may want to be a veterinarian. You've got all these opportunities. The landscape architecture. I was just talking to one of our girls that's running on the cross country team, that they just happened to qualify to run at the regional meet at Troy. She goes, yeah, I'm going out there to look at the landscape architecture. I really want to do that. I says, absolutely, go on out there with your parents, check it out. It's, the facilities are great. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that we're offering. And so just want to thank Chad for having us out here and giving us the tour.
Okay, going last has its disadvantages because I had Chip's name on there. Chip, thank you. It's a cruddy night to drive all the way out here. And for the administrators and everybody in the audience as well. Chad, you did a great job taking us all around. Jim, thank you for organizing it to get it out here for us. Like I said earlier, I think it's important as board members that we get to these different facilities so that we can share with our neighbors, our friends, our family, what the opportunities are for the kids. And just because you come to Butler Tech doesn't mean you're not going on to college. You can go out in the hallway. Chad has it posted all the way down the hallway and up all the different colleges that the kids, just in these programs here, that are attending college now. So it's options. Also, I want to thank Amy for the Finance Committee. We have quite a few different people from all different parts of the community that are a part of the Finance Committee. She presented the 5-year forecast to all of us last Wednesday or Thursday evening. And so it's nice that we can get people in there, other sets of eyes, so that maybe they can start seeing how confusing this all is and help explain to the community as well. I did have the opportunity at the football game Friday night. Bill Blessings was there, and he asked what he could do for the district, so I invited him to our Finance Committee, and he said he would come. Great. So we'll have to get together and make sure I got the right date. And speaking of that, with Butler Tech, for those of you that weren't at the Colerain game Friday night, they had manufacturing night. And that was awesome. First of all, the game ball was flown in by the Butler Tech drone. And but prior to the game, there were, 10, 12 manufacturing companies?
12.
That were all set up. And what was neat is their target was parents. So you saw parents interacting with these potential future employers and seeing all the different opportunities for the kids. So I think the stat was 3.1 million advanced manufacturing jobs will go unfulfilled or nationwide. And here these companies are beating down the doors wanting to get our kids and train them. So I know a couple weeks ago there was Manufacturing Day, and I think our district was the only one that took sophomores out to several of the companies so the kids could see that's what this is. So, and then it is weeks for post-tournament for most of our teams in both high schools, so I want to wish them all good luck. Specifically the Colerain girls cross-country team, who very much kind of surprised us, but actually advancing to regionals as a team, so we're very, very excited about that. We have a couple front runners that we're hoping will move on to state, so I want to wish all them good luck. And with that, I believe we're going to move into executive session. We will not be taking any kind of action afterwards, so you're welcome to not wait around. You're welcome to wait around. All we'll be doing is adjourning. So with that, I'll take a motion to move to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Chris. Yours didn't, you didn't vote yet.
Oh,
I think we're going to cross the hall.
sorry about that.
That's all right. Okay, we're going to move across the hall.
Okay.